So here I had my first autoflower, and I'm told don't top autoflowers. And this one's like, hey, I'm going to top myself, dude.
Welcome to episode 1 of the Autoflower podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Chad. Before we get started, I wanted to just let you know quickly that you can follow the podcast on Instagram at Autoflower Podcast, on the Twitter at Autopod, and I also made a Facebook page if you want to link up over there. Today on the show, we've got Mr. Greazy Greenz of Instagram, or as I like to call him by his name, Chlorophyllip Terpinski. He is a test grower for FastBuds as well as Morningstar Seed Company. You can find him on Instagram at Greazy Greenz, and if you're wondering about the spelling, it is in the show notes. Greazy was actually the first person I ever reached out to when I even had a thought of this podcast. Kind of asked him what he thought, if he'd be interested, and he's just an all-around cool guy, man. I love him, and I hope that you guys can get something out of this as well. It's not too much of a topical episode. We're kind of just shooting the breeze. I was actually gonna call him back and re-record it, but I don't know. I think there's some good stuff in there, so I think we're just gonna let it fly. I'd like to apologize beforehand for my interviewing skills or my conversation skills. I've never done this before, so you're gonna hear me saying okay, a bunch of times. Sorry about that. We'll get it right, man, so you can have some smooth, easy listening, just like jazz music. But without further ado, everybody, Mr. Greazy Greenz.
So, how did you get started growing autoflowers? Like, what got you into them, or how'd that start?
Well, that started with the very first order I placed from MSNL Seeds, and they sent me 2 beans of their Auto Lemon OG as freebies.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even plan on growing them at the time because my buddy that got me started growing, he was like, oh no, autoflowers are garbage. It's what a lot of people say about autos.
Right.
And he's like, not worth your time. And we had a little discussion about it because I'm always curious. I'm like, well, why? What do you mean? There's great autoflower, that kind of sounds cool. It's different,
Yeah.
And I wanted to know more. And he said, well, if you really are going to grow autoflowers, mestizo is where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of had a mini obsession with mestizo for a little while, and then they had their Illuminados giveaway, and I entered that thing every day. The limit of times that they said. But
right.
Backtrack here, I'm getting ahead of myself. So yeah, I got these 2 freebies, and ended up moving out of the apartment I was in at the time and moving into a smaller apartment. And I'm like, I don't have room for this big tent anymore. I got to downsize.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, my obsession was already set in. I wasn't going to stop growing.
I could relate.
So, yeah. So I just bought a smaller tent. And thank God my lady's supportive of all this, too. But, she keeps me a little limited. She's like, no breeding yet and all this other stuff. But,
yeah.
Anyhow.
That's cool that you're respectable of that, man. Kudos.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I planted the Auto Lemon OG, one of the seeds, and it turned out to be, it topped itself.
Oh,
so right away.
What do you mean by that? How'd that happen?
Well, it was a mutant. It was a trifoliate mutant.
Oh, okay.
And as it grew out of the trifoliate, it just kind of branched off.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So forgive me, dude. I'm going to interrupt you right there because this is where I'm totally ignorant. What's trifoliate? What does that mean? I've never even heard that word.
That's when it opens up and it has 3 cotty leaves.
Oh,
leaves.
Yes. Okay, I've seen that. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And then it usually grows out of them typically by about the 3rd or 5th set.
Mm-hmm.
it'll straighten things out and do what it needs to do to get to normal growth.
Interesting.
Okay. And yeah, so mine just kind of diverted and grew a new top to settle its differences. And so here I had my first autoflower, and I'm told don't top autoflowers. And this one's like, hey, I'm going to top myself, dude. And so I've just kind of been topping them ever since. And that I'm always kind of like intrigued by, you know, why people just settle for someone else's word. You know what I mean? They're just like, oh, well, everybody's been saying this is the way it is for a long time, so I'm just going to accept that, and I'm going to pass that word along as if I know it for fact.
Right.
And so that's kind of why I've just kind of decided I'm going to train autoflowers. You know.
Awesome, man. Yeah, and you do a pretty crazy job. I was, you know, the first time I saw, I don't even remember like how I found you on Instagram or how that even happened, but I remember the first picture I saw was like this. You know, I think you had just started laying it down for the main line, and I looked at that thing, and honestly, at first I looked at that thing and I was like, dude, that is stupid looking. And I was like, what the heck is this guy doing? And but I kept an eye on it, you know. I was like, interesting, and I was watching it, and as it grew, I went from, you know, the attitude of this is stupid to, wow, look at the results that this guy's getting off of this thing. I can't believe this. And then you posted a picture at the end, and it just looked like this like freaking demon claw, like reaching its arm out of this pot with all these fingers sticking up, you know, and all these colas. And I was like, dude, no way. And that's when you got my attention on like topping and mainlining autos was with that beast picture. I'll have to post that on the Autoflower Instagram, but there's just like, I call it the demon claw because that's what it looked like to me.
Got to be that FastBuds grapefruit auto.
That's it. Yeah, the FastBuds one. Yeah, man.
That one kind of did it for me too, man. Like before that, I was skeptical. Like, I don't know if this is gonna work. I don't know if I'm gonna get good results. I mean, but you know, all the different variables got to come together,
right,
to get those certain hormonal releases going on in the plant. I think there's certain ways to do it, and there's certain ways that it doesn't work out so well.
Yeah, I'm learning that.
Certain ways. Well, with my red poison grow, all I did was tie it down. I didn't remove anything off of the plant, really. There was, you know, maybe a couple little things here and there, but with that plant, I wanted to get every bud site exposed to the light, and I wanted to leave all the bud sites.
Sure.
And see if I could get them all to swell equally. And I did, and they all swelled equally, and they were all just a little bit bigger than popcorn buds. You know, there was a couple that were like the size of my thumb. And so with that grow, I learned, you know, you gotta remove the lowers. I've seen a lot of people growing for colas, so that's kind of what I'm doing now too, is just growing for colas.
Yeah, I agree, man. I with my setup in particular, the reason I like the mainline so much is just that even canopy, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I've got such a short availability between my light and my soil. That, and I like growing, you know, like I like having some in flower and like some just getting ready to flower, and then maybe a few seedlings so I can keep the rotation going. And it's like, if you've got your light in one spot, you know, those seedlings may start to stretch if you've got this giant cola reaching up toward the light.
Yeah, I honestly haven't dealt with a lot of stretching with any of my plants, and I'm super just not knowledgeable on what my lights are doing. Some of them are that I got secondhand, and one of them's a DIY cob that somebody put together, and I have no idea what it's putting out. But
that's
told me that it's probably similar to an older model at this light. So,
okay.
He said it's not bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, all of it together seems to be doing a good job, and it's not killing my light bill. So not too concerned with it, but I'm getting a little more curious about what's actually going on and what's ideal.
Yeah, that's a whole other science.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's fun getting into it when you know.
It is.
When it starts to become second nature, there's always another door you can open to make it.
Yeah. 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 I know you're like really interested in the plant itself, as am I. You know, I want to know, like, how does it grow? Well, you know, you feed it nutrients. It's like, well, how does it take those nutrients? I take mine, you know, basically through my mouth and, you know, through some sunlight and stuff like that. But how does the plant do it? Well, through its roots. Yeah, but how? Yeah. How does it uptake it through its roots? Like where at in the roots? You know, and that's
the really cool thing, because it's all about the microbes, dude. That's the biggest thing, and that's why I'm 33 years old. I don't know how old you are, bro.
I'm 38.
In my age.
Yeah, right 38, yeah. My hair's thinning, bro, up at the top. It's all good.
Yeah, don't worry about that too much.
Yeah, nah.
But, you know, I'm starting to think about my diet a little more and
sure.
How to get the most out of my food myself.
Yeah, likewise, bioavailability, things like that. Yeah.
And a lot of that comes down to your gut flora and whatnot. So, you know, that in mind, that's the same thing as the microbes in the soil. You know, that's the plant's gut flora. And it needs healthy gut flora in order to be able to have the nutrients even available for it to digest. So.
Okay, yeah. You know what? I was just listening to an episode of, I can't remember the exact name of the podcast. It's the cannabis, like scientific and cultivation podcast or something, with a guy from Kiss Organics.
Okay.
I love that podcast. It's totally up my nerdy avenue. You know, it's just cool. I don't understand half the stuff they're talking about most of the time. But they were just, I was listening to an older podcast where he was interviewing somebody, and they were talking about, you know, the microbes in your soil and how important it is. And, you know, something that I've totally overlooked. So hearing you say that is just confirming that for me, that's something that I need to focus in on, you know?
Yeah, for sure, man. It's just, I mean, for my whole life has taught me everything I know, you know what I mean? And I'm a pretty tall guy, and I've always had a problem putting on weight. Okay. I'm pretty sure it's because, you know, possibly there was some interference when I was young with my gut flora, you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's just something that I've been studying recently that's kind of brought my attention to microbes in the soil world and in the plant world. So, you know,
yeah,
it's just little applications in life. I mean, I used to be really into bonsai when I was young.
So, did you? Okay. That makes sense.
Man, I used to love bonsai. Exactly. It makes sense. And, you know, now I got all these main lines. My tent is getting pretty full.
Is it? That's awesome, man.
I've had this idea. So I have this little gelato sorbet clone in my tent that was just sort of like if I were to go to the animal shelter one day when they're closed and they left an animal outside in a kennel, it'd probably be coming home with me.
Sure. Yeah, I saw I saw the picture of what you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. And it looks way different even now. It's kind of getting ridiculous even in its little pot. But you know, training must progress. Doesn't matter who you are. I don't even know what I'm going to do with this thing, and I just am training. But I've had this idea because I've seen recently a few people doing grafting. So I've had this idea, why not try to cross-graft with autos and photos and see if one affects the other in some way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I'm unfamiliar with what you're talking about. I'm just totally ignorant to it. I just don't want to sit here and act like I know what you're talking about when I really don't.
Oh, no worries. You know the account Light Addict?
I don't think so.
Light Addict 420. He does a lot of considered the originator of the flux technique by a lot of people. So,
okay.
I mean, I had never heard of him before. I just started fluxing because I saw a couple of people doing it.
Right.
And I came across his, and he's got like the cleanest fluxing you've ever seen. But he's also put out some information about grafting in cannabis, and I've seen other people doing it where they take a scion, which is, well, it could be potentially a clone if you root it and put it in the dirt. But if you just take that scion and graft it into the what becomes the rootstock, which is just another plant.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Graft it into the other plant and then grow it out. Get it to heal together and then grow it out, and then you essentially got two strains that are growing on the same plant.
Okay.
So
I didn't know you can do that with cannabis. That's awesome.
Yeah. I've seen a couple of people make some what I would call chimeras that they were assembling for another person that requested, because I think it's for stealth micro growing and whatnot, and to give you some variety all in the same pot and the same plant.
That makes sense.
But I just have a curiosity about what would happen if I took a photoperiod scion and grafted it onto an autoflower rootstock and vice versa. And if I took a piece of this gelato sorbet and grafted it onto this Ethos Auto OG Kush, would that scion, once healed into the rootstock, would it autoflower, or would it just sit there and continue to veg while the rest of the plant flowered around it, Or vice versa. If I took, I'm especially curious though with autoflowers, because there's a thing with cloning with autoflowers. Autoflower clones don't exactly fail, but they don't really do much.
Right.
So what if I took an autoflower clone and grafted it onto a much more mature photoperiod rootstock? Would it then explode with growth and catch up and grow really fast and then produce another viable plant, essentially a viable autoflower clone?
Sounds like you got an experiment on your hands, my friend.
You know what I mean?
Are you going to try it out?
Somebody should. So.
Right on, brother, man. Well, I'll let you go, dude. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for coming on, man, and letting me chit chat with you and having a conversation. I appreciate it, dude.
I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm glad I could share a little bit, and I look forward to talking to you some more.
All right, Greazy. We'll see you, man.
All right, later, brother.
Bye.
Right.